He never really grew up. Not in the ways that matter. Not in the soul. You see him in coffee shops, lost in his thoughts, sketching grand ideas in a notebook that never leaves the page. You see him in relationships, passionate, fiery, intoxicating, until reality sets in and he's gone. He chases meaning, but when responsibility knocks, he runs. He dreams of greatness, yet avoids the first small step that might lead him there. It's not that he's lazy or unintelligent. It's that he's stuck. Stuck in a myth he doesn't even realize he's living. Carl Jung called him the Puer Eternus, the eternal boy, a figure buried in the male psyche. A boy trapped in a man's body. His soul is allergic to limitations, fixated on potential, but terrified of becoming real. This isn't just a man who refuses to grow up. It's a man who fears the death of freedom, the death of possibilities, the death of being special. So he floats, keeping life in draft mode, never fully committing to anything. Never grounding his energy into the world. To commit means to choose, and to choose means to kill off all other possibilities. And that's unbearable for him. He lives in a world of what could be, but the moment he touches what is, he retreats. How does a man become this way? Let's rewind to childhood. The Puer Eternus often starts as a boy who is either overprotected or emotionally neglected, sometimes a mix of both. In overprotection, he's smothered with love but denied autonomy. Praise comes easily, but challenges are rare. His failures are softened, his discomforts removed. He never learns to face resistance because someone always steps in. The world, to him, becomes terrifying, not because it's cruel, but because it's unfamiliar. On the other side, the emotionally neglected boy is left to raise himself. He's not told he's special. In fact, he's told nothing at all. His parents may be emotionally absent, or there may be trauma. So he retreats inward, building fantasy worlds. Those dreams become his only refuge, a place where no one can hurt him. In both cases, the boy never completes the rite of passage into manhood. He never learns to anchor himself in structure. He fears adulthood, not because he's weak, but because adulthood to him represents abandonment, failure, and soul death. So he avoids it, living in motion, chasing excitement, and escaping stability. Not out of rebellion, but out of survival. The Puer Eternus often appears charming, magnetic, and inspiring. He's passionate, romantic, and emotionally expressive, seemingly alive in ways other men aren't. That's why people are drawn to him. He captivates those around him with his intensity, his dreams, his ability to make life feel exciting. But the closer you get to him, the more confusing it becomes. One day he's obsessed with you, hanging on every word. The next he's distant, aloof, and unreachable. One week he's ready to start a business, full of ambition, and the next he's lost in the distraction of video games or meaningless distractions. You might think, I can fix this. He just needs time. But time doesn't grow him. The truth is, the wound isn't on the clock. It's in the soul. As Jung observed, the Puer Eternus is the boy who cannot age, not because he's youthful, but because he cannot face the responsibilities of life. The real tragedy is that he's not malicious. He's not trying to hurt you. He simply hasn't met himself yet. His entire life is built around protecting the inner child, his sensitive, brilliant, fragile core that was never nurtured properly. To shield this inner child, he builds a castle of dreams around it, guarding it with his ego. He escapes through relationships, art, drugs, philosophy, video games, anything but stillness. Because if he stops running, he might have to confront the cry he's been avoiding his whole life. Where were they when I needed them? Why didn't anyone prepare me for the realities of life? Why does responsibility feel like death? In his fantasy world, his neverland, he's never the problem. Life is an idea, not a discipline. Love is romanticized, but not relational. Passion burns brightly, but never warms. And as comforting as that world may seem, it's hollow. The pure lives in the realm of what could be, but when faced with what is, he retreats. He's constantly in motion, chasing excitement and avoiding stability because committing to something means choosing. Choosing means letting go of all the other possibilities. And that's simply too much to bear. But here's the paradox. The Puer Eternus is not inherently bad. There's brilliance in him. He's visionary, deeply sensitive, and connected to archetypal imagination that most people lose as they grow older. But without grounding, that brilliance can become madness. He dreams, but never creates. He starts things, but never finishes them. He feels love, but cannot commit. And that's where the shadow lies, where the pure never fully becomes the man he's meant to be. The Puer Eternus doesn't just struggle with adulthood, he actively avoids it. His entire life becomes a series of distractions designed to protect him from confronting the deeper, more painful realities of existence. His dream world, full of possibility, offers him the illusion of freedom. But when it comes to facing the demands of real life, relationships, work, responsibility, he recoils. He's terrified that adult life means a loss of freedom, a loss of possibility, or worse, a loss of his sense of being special. At his core, the pure fears death in all its forms. The death of his fantasies, the death of his independence, the death of his childlike identity. To him, commitment feels like a trap, whether that's committing to a relationship, a career, or even his own personal growth. The moment he's asked to make a choice, to root himself in the present and let go of all other possibilities, he panics. He retreats to what he knows, the world of endless potential, where nothing is finished and everything is still possible. The emotional confusion he creates can be maddening. One minute he's enthralled, the next he's detached. One moment he's full of enthusiasm and ambition, the next he's caught in a spiral of distraction. To those who love him, it can feel like a constant roller coaster, where nothing ever stabilizes. And while he may seem like he's chasing something deeper, something meaningful, the truth is that he's avoiding the very thing that would bring him peace: grounding. The pure will never find what he's looking for in fantasy. No matter how many new ideas, relationships, or escapes he tries, the core issue remains: the fear of facing the reality of responsibility and growth. Jung described this fear as a refusal to grow, not because of immaturity, but because of the unconscious belief that growing up means losing something precious, something unique that defines him. He holds onto his dreams so tightly, but those dreams, when not grounded in reality, eventually turn into illusions that prevent him from fully engaging with life. His brilliance, creativity, and sensitivity, traits that could make him extraordinary, are trapped in the prison of his fantasies. But this isn't a life of freedom. It's a life of constant escape. The Puer Eternus can't move forward until he confronts the truth about himself and the fears he's been running from his entire life. He must face the uncomfortable reality of adulthood, not as a loss, but as an essential part of his journey to wholeness. The Puer Eternus is not inherently bad. He's not malicious, and his struggles are not about a lack of potential. In fact, he has incredible brilliance, vision, and creativity, traits that can lead to extraordinary achievements. But without grounding, that brilliance often burns out. The pure is capable of dreaming the impossible, seeing possibilities others can't, but when it comes time to actualize those dreams, he falters. He starts projects but never finishes them. He makes big plans but never takes the first step. His artistic and emotional depth is unmatched, yet he cannot translate it into real-world achievements. This is where the shadow of the Puer Eternus manifests. He is the man who never completes what he starts, the partner who never fully shows up, the father who wants to play but cannot protect. His potential is endlessly stunted by the fear of grounding himself in reality. The more he tries to protect the inner child, the more he runs from what it means to be an adult. The deeper he retreats into fantasy, the further away he moves from the potential he's capable of realizing. And this is where the paradox lies. He can seem alive in ways other men aren't. He can be emotionally expressive, passionate, and magnetic. He gives the impression of someone who is deeply connected to life, in touch with something profound. And that's exactly why others are drawn to him, because he feels more alive, more open, more real than most. But, ironically, the closer you get to him, the less real he becomes. He is perpetually stuck in the realm of what could be, unable to commit to what is. This tension between fantasy and reality becomes unbearable over time. The Puer Eternus can't remain in his fantasy world forever. The day will come when the fantasy collapses. Maybe he loses the job he never committed to. Maybe a relationship falls apart because he couldn't show up. Or maybe he wakes up one day surrounded by half-finished projects and broken promises, unable to ignore the painful truth. He's been running from his own life. The true challenge for the Puer is facing this pain. Not the pain of external failure, but the internal ache of knowing he's been avoiding the very life he could have had. And that's when the real work begins. It's not about fixing his behavior. It's about reclaiming the parts of himself he's left behind. The boy inside doesn't need to be killed. He needs to be integrated, anchored in reality, so that he can build the life he's always dreamed of. The Puer Eternus reaches a critical point in his journey where he can no longer escape the reality he's been running from. Eventually, the fantasy world he's created collapses. Maybe he loses the job he never committed to, or a relationship fades because he couldn't show up fully. One day, he wakes up and realizes that he's surrounded by broken promises, half-finished dreams, and abandoned projects. He's spent his life floating from one possibility to another, never fully embracing any of them, and now he's faced with the painful truth. He's been running from his own life. This realization is a turning point. It's not the external pain of failure that's most devastating for the Puer Eternus, but the inner ache of knowing that he has avoided confronting himself. He begins to see that the endless potential he's clung to, which once felt so exciting, has become a source of shame. He feels haunted by what he could have been, by the man he might have become if he had chosen to stay and commit to something, anything. His potential no longer excites him. It embarrasses him, reminding him of everything he failed to build because he never fully engaged with life. At this crossroads, he faces two paths. One path leads deeper into cynicism and escape. He doubles down on distractions, spiraling further into escapism. He blames the world for his stagnation, telling himself that he hasn't had the right opportunities or that life hasn't been fair. He escapes deeper into fantasies, relationships, or substances, convincing himself that someday everything will click and he'll be able to get it right. The other path, though much harder, offers the possibility of real transformation. It requires him to stop running and ask himself a crucial question. What am I so afraid of? This is the beginning of shadow work, the moment where he must confront the unconscious fears and wounds he's been avoiding for so long. Healing doesn't come from fixing his behavior. It comes from integrating the parts of himself he's repressed and learning to embrace the responsibilities of adulthood. For the Puer Eternus, this journey is about facing the pain of growing up, not as a loss, but as an opportunity to build something real. He must mourn the lost innocence, grieve the dreams he abandoned, and accept the reality of his choices. It's messy and painful, but it's through this grief that he can transform potential into real achievement, fantasy into grounded reality. This is how he moves from boyhood to manhood, by learning to make his dreams real, not by running from them.